Welcome everyone. Let's get straight to it. You're here for the Classified Internal Threat Assessment Explainer on SCP-008. I'll be running your briefing today. Look, we're dealing with a catastrophically dangerous biological hazard here. So we're going to break down the sheer scale of this threat using the unvarnished facts pulled straight from the Foundation archives. Pay attention. But before we go any further, I need you to verify your credentials. What we're discussing today is strictly subject to Level 4 classification. That comes directly from the Overseer Council. We need absolute clinical objectivity here. So if you don't actually hold Level 4 clearance, you are violating protocol right now, and you need to terminate this explainer immediately. Alright, moving on. Here's our itinerary for today. We've got 6 critical areas to hit: clearance verification, extreme containment procedures, the prion threat profile, infection symptom timeline, physiological and behavioral mutations, and finally, neutralization and contingencies. Starting with Section 1, Clearance Verification. Alright, clearance verified. Now, be advised right out of the gate, SCP-008 currently operates under an object class of Euclid. Now, you all know what Euclid means. It's inherently unpredictable, it's not fully understood, and it requires rock-solid, constant containment to stop a breach. Because believe me, a breach of 008 is a nightmare scenario we go to terrifying lengths to avoid. Which brings us right to Section 2, Extreme Containment Procedures. So, SCP-008 samples are classified as Class 5 extreme biological hazards, and because of that, they're subject to 3 absolute terminal directives. If there's a facility breach, or say some political or military interference tries to dismantle the site, or even if we just lose power or comms for 8 hours, these steps trigger automatically. And listen to this, there's a strict zero evacuation policy, none. The facility is simply subjected to total incineration and intense radiation. The Foundation will literally sacrifice specialized G2 staff to make sure this anomaly never sees the light of day. That's how serious this is. And even when things are perfectly normal, with no breach at all, the protocols are still absolutely staggering. If an operative is just routinely leaving a secure G2 facility, they have to undergo a strict, mandatory quarantine period of precisely 4 months. Yeah, 4 months of complete isolation just for walking out the front door. It really kind of paints a picture of the paranoia surrounding this agent, doesn't it? Let's dive into the biology. Section 3, the prion threat profile. Fundamentally, SCP-008 is a complex prion. Now, a normal prion is just a protein that makes other proteins in your brain fold abnormally. But 008, it is vastly more intricate than anything you'll find in conventional medicine. And let me be clear, our primary research objective here is absolutely not weaponization. No way. The research is strictly aimed at the total prevention of its future synthesis. We are literally only studying this thing to make sure nobody else can ever build it. The threat profile on this anomaly is defined by some pretty terrifying absolutes. We're talking 100% infectiousness and 100% lethality upon exposure. If you're exposed, you're infected. If you're infected, you die. It transmits through exposed mucous membranes and all bodily fluids. Honestly, the only saving grace, the literal only reason humanity hasn't been wiped out by this yet, is that it's neither airborne nor waterborne. So what happens when someone gets it? Section 4, Infection Symptom Timeline. The speed of 008 is just brutal. Within just 3 hours of exposure, symptoms aggressively manifest. It kicks off with flu-like symptoms and a really high fever, but then it rapidly spirals into extreme severe dementia. About 20 hours after those first symptoms hit, and roughly 12 hours after the dementia really sets in, the subject drops into a coma. Operationally speaking, we consider that coma state at the 20-hour mark the definitive onset of clinical death. But as we're about to see, with 008, death is really just the beginning. Section 5, Physiological and Behavioral Mutations. Visually speaking, the subject goes through some horrific changes. They develop severe, sporadic cellular necrosis that heavily mimics gangrene. Basically, they look like a walking, rotting corpse. But don't let that fool you, it's deeply deceptive. The tissue that actually survives assumes its original function and becomes incredibly resilient. On top of that, their metabolism plummets drastically. It drops so low that we've documented infected subjects surviving for over 10 years without a single drop of nutrition. And this right here illustrates the absolute tactical nightmare we're up against. When you compare standard human frailties to an infected subject, the biological advantages are terrifying. The prion causes a massive spike in red blood cell oxygen storage. Their blood viscosity thickens up so much that they barely even bleed from gunshots, punctures, or slash wounds. You literally cannot bleed them out. And worse, their nervous and muscular systems become totally immune to total organ failure for several hours. You could destroy their internal organs and they will literally just ignore it and keep coming. Behaviorally, things are just as bad. Their conditioned behaviors and cognitive abilities are profoundly destroyed or severely retarded, but they retain this chilling, aggressive baseline. They adapt to their damaged nervous system just enough to keep basic physical functions running. They can stand, balance on two legs, walk, bite, grab, and crawl. And the most dangerous part? They will energetically track sights, sounds, and smells associated with living humans, specifically trying to ingest them upon physical contact. Moving to our final area, Section 6, Neutralization and Contingencies. Because of that extreme resilience, the thick blood, and the fact that they just don't need their internal organs, your standard takedown methods are completely useless here. So the formal neutralization directive is singular and explicit. The only viable method to put down a fully infected subject is to inflict severe, significant cranial trauma. You have to destroy the brain to stop the motor functions. Anything less, and you're just wasting ammunition. Now, you might be wondering, is there any hope at all if a critical operative gets exposed? While Contingency Addendum 0081 confirms that another anomaly, SCP-500, has proven capable of completely curing the 008 infection, even in its most advanced stages. But listen to me carefully. SCP-500 is a vastly limited resource. Yes, it's a perfect cure, but it is strictly a contingency. It is definitely not an excuse for lax containment. So we have to ask the big question. Where exactly did this thing come from? Well, the official file notes strong evidence suggesting SCP-008 did not form naturally on Earth. And the logic there is actually pretty straightforward. Given the sheer biological complexity of this prion, if variants like this had naturally evolved here, they would have inevitably displaced Earth's entire ecosystem a long time ago. The evidence overwhelmingly points to a highly classified, non-terrestrial origin. Naturally, the history of our containment efforts is packed with geopolitical complications. Back in 1959, when we first discovered this horrific threat, we actually had to force a brief collaborative effort with the USSR. The goal was to locate G2 sites and wipe out any existing stockpiles of 008. But as you can probably guess, that unprecedented alliance didn't last long, and ever since that collaboration ended, the status of SCP-008 in Russian custody has remained completely unverified. Which brings us to the end of today's explainer and leaves us staring down a terrifying, unanswered threat assessment for global security. Because if the Foundation hasn't been able to verify the containment of those Russian assets since 1959, we are dealing with an active apocalyptic blind spot. We know it's 100% lethal, we know about the horrifying physiological mutations, and we know the extreme measures it takes to stop it. So as you head back to your secure post today, I want you to ask yourselves one chilling question. Where exactly is that Russian stockpile today? Stay vigilant out there, everyone. Trust the containment protocols. Dismissed. This concludes today's briefing. If you wish to maintain your current clearance level and ensure continued access to the Versarian database, a subscription to this channel is mandatory. Secure your connection by leaving a like on this file, and log your requests in the comments section below to dictate which anomaly we unseal next. Stay vigilant and expect your next set of logs every day. Secure, contain, protect.